On January 27, 1945, two P-47 Thunderbolts soared over the Italian mountains. In the rear, aircraft 80 near old Raymundo da Costa Canario, a member of the 1st Brazilian Fighter Squadron, maintained formation with his leader, Lieutenant Luiz Lopes Dornelles. They were on a free hunting mission when they rounded a cliff and spotted a convoy of German vehicles. Dornelles quickly communicated over the radio. "Do you see that, Canary? It's Tigers." The German convoy consisted of several vehicles, and Dornelles was correct. Among them were 2 unmistakable Tiger tanks. "I'm diving in," Canario declared, being the first to maneuver his P-47 into position, aligning the enemy column in his sights. "Canary, be cautious of anti-aircraft fire," Dornelles warned. However, the excitement of combat invigorated the young pilot, and he accelerated, focusing his crosshairs on the enemy formation. "Alarm! Attack planes!" The German convoys scrambled for cover as they directed all their defensive firepower toward the Brazilian pilots. The thunderous roar of the P-47's 18-cylinder engines filled the air as the Germans raised their machine guns to confront the incoming threat. The Thunderbolt was struck by German fire, the bullets creating a sound reminiscent of gravel hitting a windshield. Demonstrating remarkable composure for his age, Canario pressed a button atop the control stick, unleashing a barrage of rockets at the armored targets below. Canario then pulls the trigger. In response, 8.50 caliber rounds are unleashed. Now at full speed, he sweeps along the entire length of the convoy. Trucks are struck, igniting into flames. As he begins to level off, he finds himself low and directly over the target. With his left hand, he activates the bomb release, and 2 500-pound bombs drop from his wings in rapid succession, crashing into the enormous German tanks. Meanwhile, a German 20mm anti-aircraft gun attempts to track the swiftly vanishing P-47. Canario ascends and veers to the left, skillfully evading the incoming fire as he races for cover behind a cliff. However, the lethal rounds whiz past him, each one coming perilously close. "I've got you, kid," shouts Dornelles, who is speeding in with the cannon in his sights as it targets Canario. Dornelles strafes the anti-aircraft gun, prompting the German soldiers to dive for cover. Just as he flies over, he releases his bombs and climbs away from the ensuing explosion and chaos. "Thank you, Luiz. I nearly lost my feathers," Canario exclaims, as the Brazilian pilots circle back over the smoldering remains of the 2 destroyed Tigers. They spot another target further down the road, the unmistakable silhouette of a 3rd Tiger. "Cover me, I'm going in," calls out Dornelles. "I'm right behind you," comes the reply. Dornelles levels off at a low angle along the road, readying his rockets. As the Tiger draws nearer, he opens fire, launching rocket after rocket from his wings, each one streaking toward its target. Come on, ... come on, ... His heart plummets as he witnesses several misses, but then a brilliant explosion erupts as one projectile hits the enemy suspension. The 56-ton behemoth is immobilized. "Canary, it's your turn." Canario descends to complete the task, launching his final 4 rockets, obliterating yet another piece of German machinery. "Haha, 3 Tigers taken out in a single day. We should have dubbed you an eagle." However, Dornelles contacts him over the radio with a new target vehicle at 4 o'clock. It's moving fast. Half-track versus Dornelles. Below, a half-track covered with a tarp has entered the road and is accelerating away. Beneath that tarp could lie another anti-aircraft weapon. If the Germans managed to get it operational, the tide of battle could swiftly turn against them. Follow me. Canario closely trails behind as the two Thunderbolts pursue the fleeing half-track. Dornelles fires first, the bullets whistling over the half-track and tearing into the trees lining the roadside. The German driver swerves, seeking cover. Dornelles must climb to set up for another attack. Meanwhile, Canario remains focused on the target. He squeezes the trigger. The Thunderbolt vibrates beneath him as the quad machine guns on each wing unleash their fire. The German observes only brief flashes of flame from the Brazilian aircraft before a barrage of bullets suddenly appears, heading directly towards him. He is powerless to react. The bullets penetrate the half-track, each round piercing the thin steel until one strikes the ammunition, resulting in a sudden and violent explosion that engulfs the vehicle in a cloud of black smoke. Canario attempts to steer clear of a chimney as he speeds past, feeling triumphant. However, the instant he diverts his gaze from his target, he realizes he has made a grave error. A factory with a towering chimney looms ahead. He yanks back on the control stick with urgency, but it is futile. He experiences a bone-chilling impact, followed by a violent roll to the right. Instinctively, he pushes the stick to the left, and his aircraft struggles to regain stability. Miraculously, he manages to halt the roll, and his reliable P-47 gradually returns to level flight. He maintains full left pressure on the stick and cautiously applies left rudder. To his astonishment, the plane responds. How is it still airborne? Gazing out the window, he notices that a third of his right wing is nearly completely severed. I've regained control. I hit a chimney. Dornelles flies alongside him, his eyes wide with disbelief at the extent of the damage. Can you make it? Back home, Canario inspects his instruments. There are no fuel leaks, the engine appears to be functioning well, and everything seems operational. I believe so. However, Dornelles cannot hear his response. Da Costa, do you copy? Something has gone awry. Canario can hear his leader, but his leader is unable to hear him in return. Can you hear me? Affirmative. We're flying over the Adriatic. P-47s are engaged with British Spitfires. The aircraft are returning home together. Throughout this, Canario remains focused on maintaining control. Suddenly, a transmission interrupts. Aircraft ahead. This is the last sight they wanted to encounter. 2 unidentified fighters approaching from the distance. Maintain your course. I'll handle them. Dornelles accelerates, leaving Canario behind. As the two unidentified planes elegantly turn and dive toward them, Dornelles ascends, prepared to confront the threat directly, but then he realizes, ... these are not foes, they are Spitfires. Dornelles quickly disengages from the attack, displaying the side of his aircraft to signal his friendly status. However, it is too late, and the Spitfires zoom past. Locking onto Canario, the two Spitfires charge toward Canario, who desperately attempts to maneuver. There is nothing he can do. Tracer rounds stream from the wings of the Spitfires. Canario's tail is shredded, and the aircraft begins to roll uncontrollably. The unidentified fighters zoom by, allowing him a close-up view. The two Spitfires circle back for another assault. No, I'm on your side. They position themselves alongside the Thunderbolt. Oh dear, it's a P-47. My apologies, my good man. The Spitfires dip their wings in a gesture of contrition before veering away. Blast it. Those Brits nearly sent me to my doom. Canario and Dornelles head back home. As the two pilots approach their airbase, Canario prepares for landing. He deploys the landing gear and skillfully maneuvers the aircraft into a sideslip towards the runway. Suddenly, a message comes through from the control tower. Abort. Abort. Canario instinctively pulls up. The tower informs him that the runway is required for an emergency landing, necessitating the Thunderbolt to enter a holding pattern. Blast it. Can't they see I'm down to one wing? He is compelled to execute several precarious turns over the base, but eventually he receives clearance to land. He touches down with significant force, yet the landing gear remains intact. Applying the brakes forcefully, his plane rolls and vibrates down the runway. At last, enveloped in a cloud of dust, the P-47, or what remains of it, comes to a stop. Raymundo da Costa Canario would survive the war and return to Brazil. Remarkably, his aircraft was repaired and went on to complete 50 additional missions. Before the war's conclusion, my plane wasn't the only one to land with substantial damage. Check out this film where a B-17 was struck by a German pilot, yet still managed to land at a German airfield. I bet he wasn't forced to circle around again.